This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and it's a BOGO review. We have the Alienware x17 and the Alienware x15 in for review. In fact, I've actually had these for a couple of months now. Sorry it took so long to get to this review. But that means that we actually spent a lot of time gaming on them, which is a good test because this is the redesign. Obviously, it looks a bit different. Yeah, it's somewhat similar to previous Alienwares, but we have 4 cooling fans inside instead of 2 that can operate independently speed-wise to improve the thermals, which has always been the bugaboo of, well, all gaming laptops. And Alienware certainly has thinner laptops. Inside we have Intel 11th generation H series CPUs. With the X17, you have a choice of a Core i7 or a Core i9, though I don't see the Core i9 on Dell's website at the moment, and the Core i7 for the 15-inch, and NVIDIA RTX 3060, 3070, and 3080 graphics. Now, obviously, there are going to be thermal differences between these and GPU wattage differences, and we're going to focus on that as well in this review, but a lot is the same. The overall design. The speakers sound surprisingly not so different, all those sorts of things. We're going to look at them now. So the laptops are lunar light, well, obviously with a black interior, and that's how Alienware is rolling. And no more black butt like we used to have with the M15 and M17 series laptops. It might look like plastic to you, but this is actually a magnesium alloy, and as always, the build quality is really tanky. And you know, these are heavy machines. You're looking at 6 to 6.5 pounds for the 17-inch. And about 5.5 pounds for the 15-inch laptop, so beefy to be sure. The ports, as you can see, are mostly on the back, which is great if you're a tidy person and not so great if you find that inconvenient to reach around to the back just to plug and unplug things. The charger plugs into the side, the headphone jack plugs into the side at the rear, but all the rest of the ports, which are pretty copious, as we'd like to see for a gaming laptop, are in the back. And the very bright Tron lighting ring around the rear, a signature look for Alienware, is so bright that in a darker place, it kind of blinds your eyes so you really still can't see the ports. I mean, not the biggest thing in the world, but there's that. The keyboards on these, if you get the 17-inch, you have an option for the Cherry MX low travel mechanical keyboard, which feels really very nice and very crisp, as you would hope and expect, per key RGB. The only thing is the keys make, you know, mechanical keyboards are a little noisy, but they have a kind of out-of-tune musical note kind of quality that, well, if you're a musician like I am, you kind of notice it and it's distracting. It's a weird thing I haven't noticed in other mechanical keyboards. Now with the 15-inch, you just get the per key RGB not mechanical option. It's also a very nice keyboard with good return and key spring. I like it a lot too. By the way, on the 17-inch, there is no number pad, which is kind of unusual. Some of you might be upset by this. The trackpads on these are large, well-behaved Microsoft Precision trackpads, and you get that light-up trackpad on the 17-inch option there, and I love that. That's back from the old days when Alienware did that, and that it makes life easier in the dark when you realize you've just been trying to mouse on the keyboard deck. And now a shout out to our sponsor, Flexispot, and their Kana Pro Sit Standing Desk. You know, we've actually reviewed a couple of their desks and have placements for them, and I have to say they do just get better and better. Very sturdily built, no odor, and this time a bamboo top, which is attractive and durable, and it's available in a variety of sizes. You want a small desk, you want a big desk, they got it for you. The motors have gotten very fast and quiet. They're always pretty good, but now quite fast. So it's one of those push button kind of deals right on the front edge there. You want to sit, you can lower it down. You want to stand, you raise it up. You just want to have your monitor at the perfect height because you've got neck aches. That takes care of that problem as well. And has memory presets and a lock button in case your mischievous child, cat, or spouse keeps hitting a button and changing the height of your desk on you. The desk is also very easy to assemble, ships from US warehouses. There are instructions on board, and you get an Allen key, the usual deal, and I think pretty much anybody can put one of these together. So be sure to check out the link in the description and you can save some money using our link. And now back to our video. When it comes to the displays, the base model display for both of these is a 165 Hz Full HD panel, and you can go up to a QHD 240 Hz panel with Advanced Optimus and switchable graphics on the 15-inch model, which is kind of the sweet spot. You've got this performance, even if we're talking kind of upper level max Q GPUs on the 15-inch where you've got all the horsepower, why not enjoy the frame rates? For the 17-inch, you can also get a 360 hertz full HD display, which sometimes shows up on Dell's website, sometimes doesn't. And then the top of the line is a 4K 120 hertz. So that's a great improvement, obviously, over 60 hertz. For those who actually do want 4K for content creation to take advantage of the high wattage GPUs for some 4K gaming and not be locked at 60 hertz, 60 frames per second like you were with some older displays. It's a very nice wide gamut display. That is the one that we have on the X17. And that one, thanks to a BIOS update, has switchable graphics. You have to go into BIOS and actually switch between DGPU mode or switchable graphics mode, for those of you who want that. One thing I will say, though, is putting these into the DGPU only mode really didn't make much of a difference in performance in terms of frame rates in games or benchmark numbers. I mean, when you're talking a 2% difference, that's pretty small. It's probably not even worth the effort and the inconvenience unless you're totally hardcore about things. The speakers on these, they could be better, which is true of a lot of gaming laptops, oddly. I mean, really, you're gaming, right? You want good sound, but do you ever get that? Not too often. No 16-inch MacBook Pro, these. Obviously, the 17-inch has more room for more drivers. It sounds a bit better than the 15-inch. Both of them are pretty lacking on bass, though. You're totally going to be wanting headphones or external speakers to really enjoy your gaming experience. When it comes to what's inside, there are some differences. One thing that's nice is they're using a silicone gallium thermal material for the thermal paste, which gallium, for those of you who are into these things, you know that's liquid metal. So they've kind of combined it with the silicone maybe to avoid the shorts and all that sort of thing that liquid metal can risk. And it certainly seems to be reasonably effective. Again, mostly you'll see that on the 17-inch where the thermals are really very good. They both have two M.2 SSD slots. RAID 0 is optional. One supports PCIe 4, the other supports PCIe 3. Now the 17-inch has two RAM slots. Yay, so good to see Dell and Alienware going back to having RAM slots. But alas, the X15 does not have RAM slots. So you can get it with 16 or 32 gigs of DDR4, 3200 megahertz RAM soldered on board. You cannot upgrade the 15-inch after the fact. You can upgrade the 17-inch, in other words. We have killer Wi-Fi on board. That's Wi-Fi 6E, so that's good performance with Bluetooth 5.1. And the Wi-Fi has actually quite good range and good throughput on this. They've done a good job with the antenna arrangement on these laptops for sure. Ports on these are pretty good. The 17-inch has room for more ports. It does have more ports. It has two USB-A ports, whereas the X15 only has one. It has a mini display port 1.4. The X15 does not have that. Otherwise, you get HDMI 2.1 on both these. Yay, 2.1. You get Thunderbolt 4 USB-C. You get the idea there. And an Ethernet dongle in the box, USB-A to Ethernet for those of you who want to play games with less latency in terms of your networking. Also, a nicety for the ports on both of these is a micro SD card slot for you content creators. Both of these have 720p webcams, aka your usual potato cam, and you have an 87 watt-hour battery. Which charger you get depends on which laptop you get. We have the 3070 and the X17, and that one is that new compact 240 watt adapter. It looks sort of like an XPS 15 or XPS 17 adapter. It is very compact. If you have the X17 like we have with a Core i7 and an RTX 3080, and that's 165 watt 3080, you get the usual big honkin' 330 watt power brick that, well, if you drop on your foot, it will hurt. So how about performance and heat? First, let's talk about the GPU options. You get the full fat, not max Q GPU options with a lot of watts in the X17. 130 watts if you go for the 3060, 140 watts if you go for the 3080, and 165 watts for that 3080. Though it's an interesting setup where 50 watts of that is boost. They're doing that basically so they can power share and thermal share with the CPU. So it gives them a heck of a lot of leeway, honestly, to do that sort of thing. Interesting, because MSI doesn't really do that. They can throw more power at the CPU at all times, but there's that. In terms of performance and thermals, the X17 is the big boy, great performance, great thermals, relatively speaking, for a gaming laptop. And again, this is not going to be like some chill running thing, but you can see the game footage running across here and playing demanding games like Far Cry 6 and Cyberpunk 2077 with this 3080 rig running, and Wow, the temperatures and the clock speeds on the CPU are quite good. We're seeing it boost and stay at 3.8 gigahertz, 4 gigahertz, while keeping the thermals anywhere from 78 to 82 centigrade. That's excellent stuff. And no, it does not sound like a jet engine taking off. You certainly will hear the fans. It will warm up a small room in the winter with the amount of air it is moving out via the four fans, but that's very good thermal performance. Now, for the X15, some of you will be a little bummed because this is actually a downgrade in GPU wattage from the previous generation, which was the M15 R4, right? So we have 90 watts for the 3060 and 110 watts for the 3070 and the 3080. So in max Q territory. So despite that drop in wattage, if you look at our gaming footage, which you can see up upper left corner where the thermals are and other information, typically the clock speeds will not stay as high compared to the X17, and the temperatures will run in the 90s centigrade, which compared to the previous generations of the Alienware in the M series actually isn't that bad because we didn't see as much of it hitting 99 to 100 degrees centigrade and throttling wildly. So there is better thermal control than in the past. But there are times when we see it go up to the upper 90s, and then you can see the clock speeds clearly dropping from 3.8 gigahertz to 2.4 gigahertz. So that's the price you're paying for a smaller carry. And for Intel's hot running CPUs, that'll be fair, even Ryzen's most performant CPUs get pretty warm. What's it doing? Speaking of the competition, there is the ASUS ROG Strix G15 if you're looking at higher end gaming laptops. It's a lighter carry. It runs a bit cooler. It too has max Q level GPU wattages on board, but it's also worth considering. The problem is it's hard to find any Ryzen laptop. And of course, there's a Lenovo Legion 5 Pro, which is a 16-inch. It's somewhere between these. Great performance, pretty good thermals, honestly. A nice QHD 16 by 10 aspect ratio display. We're still rolling with 16 by 9 here. But again, the build times are like 4 months out for that Legion 5 Pro with Ryzen inside. So it's getting to be tough to actually recommend the Ryzen if you folks can't find it. But if you can, also worth considering, certainly. And of course, Dell has their own Ryzen edition. That is the M15R5, which is a decent enough machine for those who are looking at a 15-inch and do like that Ryzen thing. And Dell's doing better with supply chain and actually getting those out there. No equivalent for the 17-inch, however. And then again, if you're looking to spend a little bit less money and get machines that are honestly almost as thin but don't have as much fancy cooling, then there is still the M15R6 line. It gets to be confusing. There's so many different lines right now for Alienware machines, and those are the conventional design, though it feels like they've cheaped them out a little bit, and these X15 and X17 represent that high-end Alienware experience and build quality that you've always known. But those are also worth a look. You're not going to get that 4-fan cooling system, though, but the 17-inch chassis with Alienwares typically can handle the heat pretty well. It's just the 15-inchers. So battery life on these, typically with gaming laptops, high-end ones, we don't expect that much. But thanks to switchable graphics, if you're doing light work and you're staying on Intel graphics, actually battery life, with the brightness set to 200 nits, not maxing these out or anything like that, but for light work and maybe even a little bit of Photoshop thrown in there, that sort of thing, you can get about 4 hours out of them, which, well, by gaming laptop standards, isn't all that bad. If you were, more draconian with your power settings, you probably could get a little bit more. If you're doing something like Adobe Premiere, it will be shorter. So that's the Alienware X17 and the X15 for premium thin gaming laptops, so not wildly light exactly. It's a lot of what folks ask for, particularly for the X17, because now you have RAM slots back again. Yay, I'm so glad Dell started to do that. And you've got much improved cooling, and really, these are good performance, and this is some of the highest wattage GPUs. Really, it competes with the MSI GE76 Raider family and other high-end laptops. And the X15 is a nice looking piece, really. It's not much slimmer than the older M15 series. The cooling helps. I see less throttling, but not super high clock speed. So physics is still physics, and you've got Intel CPUs inside and fast GPUs, and there's only so much you can eke out of a 15-inch, but then again, it is a lighter carry. like I said, you can look at something like the Asus ROG Strix Scar 15 if you want something even more portable with Ryzen inside, though Ryzen laptops are still harder to get. And then there's the Lenovo Legion Pro, which sits literally physically between these two in size. Again, kind of hard to get. So once you factor in what you can actually get your hands on, these look even better. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more cool tech videos, and thumbs up if you like this vid.